A little while ago, I put out a survey asking over 700 Deltarune fans about everyone's favorite or least favorite gamer, how they personally felt about him and why, if their opinion on him had changed at any point, etc. This was for a longer video I'm making about the purpose of his character, and that is still coming, but I thought it would be nice to make a shorter video quickly compiling all the results. I do want to emphasize, however, that since the majority of people who answered came from my channel, I think these results are from a sample representative of the more dedicated fans who are actively watching niche Deltarune content almost 3 years after Chapter 2's release, rather than the casual fans who make up the actual majority of players. I imagine if I were able to poll a sample of people who just played Chapter 2 when it came out, that opinions on Berdly would be more negative, the amount of people saying they were neurodivergent would be lower, and stuff like that. Still, I think the opinions of the active fanbase are still of interest, if not more of interest to us. Also, while the majority of people did answer most of the questions, not every question was answered by everyone. So then, let's get into it. When asked to rate their feelings towards Berdly on a scale of 1 to 5, the majority, about 67%, answered a positive 4 or 5, 23% gave a neutral/mixed 3, and only about 10% gave a negative 1 or 2. However, when asked about the objective quality of Berdly's writing, 82% said he was a good character, 16% said he was like an okay-ish character, and under 2% said he was bad. Just goes to show that people think very highly of Toby Fox's writing. I provided 8 reasons for having a more positive opinion on Berdly, and respondents could select up to 5 of these. The top 3 responses were, he's funny, I like his character development, and his behavior in the Snowgrave route, all of which were selected by the majority of respondents. After that, the next most common were, I enjoy his relationship with Noelle, closely behind his relationship with Chris, then his relationship with Queen, and I relate to him / he reminds me of my past self. The least popular choice was, I enjoy his relationship with Susie, which a not insignificant 17% of people selected, and besides that, every option was chosen by at least a quarter of respondents, so I think I was correct in assuming that his relationships with other characters were a popular aspect of people liking him. The 8 reasons I provided for people disliking Berdly got some more diverse selections. The most common, as expected, was, he's annoying, although it wasn't selected quite as much as I thought, and the second most common was, he treats Noelle poorly. Besides that, almost every answer got a significant number of respondents choosing it, but all were picked by less than half. The third most common answer was, he treats Susie poorly / grossly after he starts liking her. Then, he treats Chris poorly, he just sucks as a person, he treats Susie poorly before he starts liking her, and again, I relate to him / he reminds me of my past self. The least popular, chosen by only 4% of respondents, was he treats Queen poorly, which makes sense as it's kind of the other way around. In response to, have your feelings on Berdly significantly changed since he was introduced during your first playthrough of Chapter 2, 73% said yes. I specified in another question if this was a positive or negative change in feelings, and 97% said for the better. I suspect the few who said for the worse misinterpreted the question and thought, oh well, I didn't mind him in Chapter 1, but when he became important I started disliking him, so we can just ignore that entirely, I guess. As for what caused people's feelings to change, I messed up a bit with this question. I added a free response other section, but a majority of the answers I got could either be easily slotted into one of the options already provided, or people again saying, oh, I only started caring about him in Chapter 2, or my feelings never changed, which were misreadings of the question. I'm only asking if people who disliked or felt neutral towards him after he first became important in Chapter 2 later changed their feelings. So what I did for this is I manually went through these other responses and picked the answers I felt they most closely aligned with, deleting the ones that had said their feelings had never changed or mentioned Chapter 1. Anyways, according to my updated results, the most common answer was predictably when people saw the scene where he talked about his backstory and admitted he wasn't smart for the first time, although only a third of people picked this, and reasons were pretty diverse. After that, we have sometime before this during the first half of Chapter 2, still during people's first playthroughs, and closely behind that, sometime after people's initial playthroughs due to fandom experiences, etc. The last 2 options were sometime during subsequent playthroughs and after playing the Snowgrave route, which were both picked by a little less than 10% of people. And finally, we get to the spiciest question. Are you neurodivergent and do you think Berdly is? Unsurprisingly, coming from fandom-y types, 46% said they were neurodivergent, 22% said maybe, 20% didn't know, with only 12% saying no. And 50.5% said they thought Berdly was, or probably Berdly was neurodivergent. 40% had no opinion or didn't know, and similarly, only 9% gave a definitive no. To my knowledge, Google Forms doesn't have an easy way to check how people who answered X to this question answered another question, but using spreadsheets and doing some math, I was able to figure out that people who thought Berdly was, or maybe was, neurodivergent were only half as likely to dislike him as those who thought he wasn't. I would close this off with my reactions to these results, but that's kind of what my upcoming video is for. For the most part, it's still my typical character analysis with some theorizing sprinkled on, but I'm really excited about it. I've been on vacation and working on an animatic, so I'm only just finishing the script for it, which is part of why I wanted to put something small out in between. Have a good day, and I hope to see you soon.